It's been 1 year since the inception of the Three Quarters podcast, and each week since then, we've been trying to sensitize and stress the point of Kenya focusing on the game of rugby 15th. We are the Red Lion. For those of you who do not know, this is the clubhouse for Nondiescripts RFC. And with me, my guest today is a gentleman who's had a very outstanding career in the game of rugby 15s. Just to read you a couple of stats so that you know what I'm talking about. So he's had 109 tests for the Springboks. Only Victor Matfield, Brian Habana, and John Smith, who captained South Africa to the 2007 World Cup Championship, have played more games than he has. He scored 27 tries for the Springboks, and most importantly, he's captained the Springboks for 37 times. This man needs no introduction, so we'll get right into it. Jean de Villiers, welcome to the Three Quarters podcast, and most importantly, Karibu Kenya. You've been retired for 2 years now. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last game you had was against Samoa at the Rugby World Cup in 2015. What have you been doing since then?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
It's great to be in Kenya first of all, and to do this interview with you as well.
Yeah.
So I've been retired from international rugby for 2 years.
Yeah.
I then went on and yes, I did play against Samoa my last game.
Yeah.
But I then went to England for 6 months
Yeah.
and played at Leicester Tigers.
Yeah.
Only managed to play 2 games at the end, but really enjoyed my time over there.
Yeah.
Made great friends and it's a fantastic club.
Yeah.
So officially only retired from all rugby on the 1st of June last year.
Okay.
And since then I've been involved with a wealth management company back in South Africa called Citadel. And also with Supersport.
Yeah.
It's sort of that's been my way of staying involved with the game. It's much easier on the body, much less stressful,
Yeah.
and the criticism is much less as well. So
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed that, and I always knew that the transition from rugby to the life after rugby would be difficult, and I did find it difficult at times, but fortunate that I got a couple of lifelines thrown my way and really enjoying it.
Okay, that's good to hear. So what brings you to Kenya?
So I got invited by Nondies Rugby Club,
Yeah.
and it's my first time in Kenya. They had their awards, men's awards dinner last night, and I was able to share a couple of stories from my playing days, and just what I learned from rugby and what rugby gave me.
Yeah.
That was loads of fun, and I think what really stood out for me was the culture that they still have at Nondies. The traditions they have, and a lot of the amateur era traditions that's still brought forward to rugby now.
Yeah.
To see the caps that they hand out on a yearly basis, only 2 a year.
Yeah.
And I think the oldest one there last night was 1927 or 1929.
Yeah.
So for those people to still come back.
Yeah.
And even though that gentleman was not there, I think it got passed on to his grandson or something.
Yeah.
But to have that there and to see the interest for the club and what the club means to them, that's what makes rugby special. So to have been a part of that was great. And then today we had a bit of a coaching session with the first and second team. So good to see that rugby in Kenya is strong and growing.
Yeah.
And just to give a bit of insight, from our playing days.
Okay, which brings me off to my next question. As you've said, you've had the chance to train with the Nondies first team this morning. What's your opinion on the standard of rugby in Kenya, and particularly taking into account the fact that Kenya has a relationship with your former club, Western Province? In fact, our head coach is the under-21 head coach at Western Province, Jerome Pavata. So what's your opinion on the standard of rugby in Kenya?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't seen too much of the 15-man game yet, and I can only judge it by the club's training session this morning.
Yeah.
The enthusiasm is certainly there, and I think the skill level is something that can still improve, but that takes time as well.
Yeah.
The fact that Sevens sort of gets preference in this country is a good thing as well. I think it at least puts rugby on the map. It makes people aware of rugby, and because they have been relatively successful, that will hopefully filter through to the 15s as well. So, these things take time.
Yeah.
Having a guy like Jerome help with the national side, he's been around the block. He's He's coached a lot of teams, and he's been successful this year, winning the under-21 competition for Western Province in South Africa. So he has had success throughout the years, and hopefully he can transfer that through to the Kenyan team as well. You know, when you do work with a team that is looking to improve and develop so much, there's so much that you can change.
Yeah.
But it's important to stay true to the culture of Kenyan rugby and the way that Kenya plays rugby.
Yeah.
And then just to add to that. So it's not something that'll just happen overnight and overnight there'll be a better team. It will take time, and hopefully he will be provided with a period of time where he can hopefully facilitate that change.
Okay. So every rugby fan has that moment when they remember Jean de Villiers. Two moments off my head. I think about the 2004 Tri-Nations, when you had a stellar game against New Zealand and you ended up winning the Tri-Nations in 2004. I think about the intercept try versus New Zealand. Despite me being a New Zealand fan, it was actually a very good moment. Intercept try that resulted in South Africa, of course, again winning the Tri-Nations in 2009. But I think the most admirable thing and the most important thing when people think about Jean de Villiers is how he has been able to recover from his injuries. We think about 2003 and 2007, you were unable to make it for the World Cup. 2011 and 2015, you were unable to complete the campaign with the South African team. Just take us through the mental fortitude and what's required to recover from such devastating circumstances, and be it in your playing days and in life in general. What steps should people take?
Yeah, I think it's a test of your character. And it certainly does not make me special at all. I think it's purely a decision that you make. That in my case, it was in rugby, and I absolutely love the game of rugby, and I always wanted to make it my job, and eventually I got that opportunity to do that. But life is tough, whether you're a rugby player or whether you are a businessman or whether you are whatever. Life is tough, and things will happen in your life that you did not plan for, and that absolutely tears you apart. And adversity being that is an absolute given. So it's all about your attitude in that situation and what you decide you want to do with that, because in every setback there is an opportunity as well. And I think for me it was always fueled by the love of the game, wanting to get back, just playing again, doing the thing that I really love. And second to that, hard work, working hard to get back and having the mental strength to do that. Now, that mental strength that I talk about is something that is not unique to me. That is purely a decision that I made. And I got through it. Yes, I had a lot of people that helped me through it as well, but that really is the message that I want to send to everyone. In that it doesn't matter what you are going through, you can get through it. And that is a decision. And it sounds much easier than what it is, because having a knee injury or having a shoulder injury or having a setback in rugby is really small compared to someone that gets paralyzed, or someone that does not know where the next meal will come from or where they'll sleep tonight. That is difficult, so it puts things in perspective, and that's why I want to share that message that what you can get out of it. And what I can do now, and the platform that I have now, is that I can provide opportunities to other people that might not get the support that I got. And that's important as well, because the playing field is not level. And it is, and it really is important to help those that are less fortunate and that do not get the opportunities, and give them that little bit of hope as well, because there's some unbelievable stories out there. And if you've had a privileged life like I've had, it certainly is easier to get through the disappointments. The real heroes are those that were offered one opportunity, they used it, and they got through whatever circumstances they were in. So those really are the true heroes, and certainly the people that I look up to. So the mental strength is important. It's your attitude in that situation that's important, and hard work. is something that will always give you success.
Very wise words. So as I mentioned at the beginning, you've played for South Africa for 109 times. You've had some very interesting competition. I think in the earlier years you used to face up against Sterling Mortlock, Brian O'Driscoll. I think about the latter years in your career, came up against Matt Gito from Australia, Maan Onu from New Zealand. Who is the one guy who, when you saw his name on the team sheet, you're like, oh boy, I'm going to have a long day today? Even if it's not on that list, who is the one person you faced up against and you're like...
No, I think whenever you play a test match, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know? And because we are so competitive, when you get to that level of rugby, you are so competitive, and you certainly do not look at a team sheet and think that you're going to have a long day.
Yeah.
What you do see is you see that challenge.
Yes.
Every single time.
Yeah.
And then you either need to accept it or not. And you know, I think back of a guy like Maan Onu, who was and still is an absolutely fantastic player.
Yeah.
And you know, we played against each other so many times, and there were games where I had the upper hand, but there were certainly games where he had the upper hand by far as well.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge every single time.
Yeah.
You know, so he is probably the one guy that I respect the most.
Yeah.
Purely because we played each other so many times, and he's just a brilliant footballer.
Yeah.
You know, so you can go down that list and all the names that you mentioned. O'Driscoll, you know, absolute magician in the way that he played, and the partnership that he had with Gordon Darcy. You know, Mortlock, Gecheo, Yannick Josier that played for France. Sunnyville William, Tana Umaga.
Oh yeah.
You know, so the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And in a way, yes, I got to play for South Africa 109 times, but I got to play against all these brilliant names as well.
Yes.
And that's an honour and a privilege in itself.
Yeah.
So, it's you know, those guys might as well have been my heroes, but then I got the opportunity to play against them.
Yes.
So it was great.
Okay, and in the same breath, in the 109 tests that you've played, you've had some very interesting centre partnerships in South Africa. I think about, I don't recall you partnering with Francis Tain, because I remember he's the one who replaced you in the 2007 World Cup. I think about Joan Deon at Western Province in South Africa. I also think about recently Damien Dialande. And my personal favorite, of course, Jacques Fourie, who's the person who you had a tandem in terms of whenever you partnered him at centre, you had very good chemistry, it was a tandem, and you had the most success with.
Well, you know your rugby, don't you? How can I disagree with you? Look, Jacques Fourie and I, we still hold the record for the most test matches together as a centre combination.
Yes.
And the first time we played against, or played together in a test match, ever played together, actually, was in a test match against Australia in 2005.
Yes.
And from the outset, we just clicked.
Yes.
It just happened.
Yeah.
And I always loved playing with him. He was an unbelievable rugby player.
Yeah.
A great communicator, a physical player.
Yeah.
You know, he ran unbelievable lines as a third team. And I always enjoyed playing with him.
Yeah.
All the other names that you mentioned, I played with him as well. Frans Steyn, I did actually partner with him as well. Joan de Jong, Jan Safontein, David Lendi, David Barry, Marius Joubert, you know, great names of Springbok rugby.
Yes.
Jacques Fourie and myself, we're good friends off the field, and we just seem to click.
Yes.
And sometimes you can put two brilliant players together, and the partnership is not there.
Yes.
And sometimes you put two average guys together, and you know, as a combination, they are so much better together.
Yeah.
So he was a brilliant player, and I just loved to play with him. So it worked for us, and we had pretty good success as a combination.
So I'm right, at least.
Jacques
Fourie.
You are right.
So finally, there's a question that we like asking people at the Three Quarters podcast as we wrap up, and I'll say some words, and I want you to repeat them and fill in the blanks after. And the words are: the reason why I love the game of rugby is.
The reason I love the game of rugby is because it has made me a better person.
Yeah.
And I think because I absolutely love it, and was able to meet fantastic people, it keeps you grounded. Because yes, you do have the highs, and yes, you do have the success, but you learn from the disappointments and the failures.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of rugby, because you're in a team environment. It's an ultimate team sport. And your teammates and the people around you, they get you through those difficult times. So that's why I love the game. And I honestly do believe that that it is not just about being a good rugby player. It's about becoming a better person through rugby. And that to me is the success of rugby.
Jean de Villiers, I want to say thank you very much on behalf of the Three Quarters podcast and the Kenya Rugby fraternity at large. Thank you very much for granting us this interview. And I wish you the best in the rest of your stay. I know it's a short stay, but I believe you're going to make the best of it. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
It's been lovely.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.